Wait, actually, we can discuss.
Yeah. So, would you say that female psychology and male psychology exists?
No,
It does.
what's the argument for that?
There's evidence. There's female
These
rehab.
psychological states are ontically committing.
No,
I think he wants to say that there's a
different.
standard.
Hold on. No, I'm saying something very simple. That if you have male-coded depression or female-coded depression, the treatment pathways are different. That's just a fact.
That's all you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, what can I
treatment pathways,
what can I infer from that?
I don't know. You tell me.
I can infer that there's psychology that is typically male and psychology that is typically female if the alteration or abnormality of a psychology is treated differently, whether or not based on the fact that they're male or female, correct?
Well, that's just talking about standard application.
If I can infer that the structure of mind is different and we have different treatment pathways that have provable clinical outcomes that are better, if we assume these things to be true, then I kind of have good reason to assume that there's a female mind and a male mind, right?
A female mind and a male mind? What?
Yes, there's typical male mind and typical female mind. Evidence.
Obviously, there are typical. You're not saying anything like that.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm doing a bunch of premises, right?
Yeah, I
so
can
if
tell.
there's such thing as a typical male mind and a typical female mind, we can infer further that there's structural differences, either metaphysical or physical, depending on how the hard problem of consciousness is cashed out. But we can assume that there's physical or metaphysical differences that distinguish the two. I don't think it's possible for two like-minded objects to have different functions. Do you? Or like objects, identical objects?
I don't understand. Like, what's the inference to their trans women being women?
I'm getting there. There's an argument that I'm outlining, premise by premise for you right now.
Okay, but why are you asking it? Just
because it's a complicated argument. There's a lot of premises, right? So I'm trying to be as parsimonious and honest.
I can sign off that there's a structural difference between the typical male mind and the typical female mind. Yeah.
Fantastic. So if it is the case that there's a structural difference, then the thing doing the thinking is the source of identity. My mind is my identity. Do you agree with that?
Wait, what's the argument for the conditional?
If I am a thing that thinks, I am a thing.
No, you said. Wait, repeat what you said before this. What was the original conditional?
I was going quick. I don't know if I can remember it verbatim, but basically what I'm saying here is that my identity only exists within my mind. Do you agree with that?
No.
So where does your identity exist besides your mind?
I think an identity, presumably, is just going to be the thing that makes up, or like you want to say your identity. I think it can exist like in virtually everything. Like I think there's other external factors to the mind that make up your identity as well. Like for example, your actions. I think those can make up your identity. I think things like sociological expectations can make up your identity. But the thing here is just that I don't really see the inference.
What do you need inference for here?
For trans women being women. Is that not what you're supposed to do?
No, you don't need a simple inference rule when I'm giving an argument. The argument is kind of compromised of inference rules.
But I don't understand how these facts even entail a conclusion.
6 or 7 right now. You're going to have to follow along the rest of the argument before you.
No, I'm following, but the thing is that I don't see how these are supposed to lead to
wait till I get to the conclusion before we test for soundness, right? Or validity.
I'm not even talking about validity. I'm saying there's nothing in the synthetic facts that you just gave, which I'm signing off that they're synthetic. Nothing in those entail this another synthetic fact, which is just that trans women are women, right? Like anyone who takes a trans exclusionary conceptual model, right, where they embed trans women not being women, can sign off on everything you're saying so far.
Okay, that's fine, man. I don't really care about that. So if
wait, you don't care that your argument seems to be one which doesn't lead to the conclusion?
I don't think you know what the conclusion is, so you can't say that.
The conclusion is trans women are women. Is that not what you're supposed to give an argument for? That is the conclusion. Right, so
no, there's more to it than that. The conclusion
well, that's what I'm interested in you giving an argument.
Well, the conclusion is that, technically the argument could end here, and then there would be a sub-argument just explaining how the mind can be switched.
Wait, the argument can end here? What?
Yeah.
What would the conclusion be?
That identity lies in the mind, and that mind has a structure that's gendered-based. And you could just infer that some swap of the mind.
That doesn't follow. Identity has a mind in that.
No,
well, presumably we're talking about sex. But when you said male and female, presumably you're talking about sex. So even if I grant this, the only thing that we would even be signing off on is that there's typical minds that are structured ordered towards the male sex, and there's minds that are ordered towards the female sex. That has nothing to do with gender.
Yes, it does, because that's replacing the concept of gender.
No, I take a conceptual model where gender and sex are distinct.
Can you justify the refutation of that?
Yeah, I can justify my conceptual model. It seems to be the case that there's a large convergence of agents who seem to affirm the conceptual model that I take. Given the Goffman's emergent of opinion result, when we embed these type of things, it seems like that's going to be evidence that the concept is successful, because if a concept is successful, what you would expect is going to be rational agents converging, given like updating their priors over time, holding to this type of relevant distinction, right? If we hold to this type of relevant distinction, well, yeah, given that we see that, that's going to be evidence that it's successful.
You isolate the relevant
given that the
distinction.
concept is successful. Yeah, the relevant distinction is just going to be that sex is the type of thing which is necessarily biological, and gender is the type of thing which is necessarily sociological.
Oh, why
I don't
is
take
that?
it to be the case that there's
I
some,
absolutely reject that premise. Why is gender something that is
yeah,
necessary?
analytically, in virtue of the analyticity of the second kind. So,
Analyticity. What analytic statement have I made?
no, I said, you asked me for the argument that gender is necessarily sociological.
I'm
and
making
that,
an ontological argument. Why does analytics come into this? There's no epistemic.
you asked me for, to be clear, you asked me for an argument that gender is necessarily sociological.
You're having
And
an
I just said
argument
that's analytically
about
true.
ontology of identity.
You're
Why
losing
are you
terribly.
bringing, if in an ontological argument, it doesn't make sense to bring
You're
an
losing terribly.
analytic.
Yeah, the reason why the analyticity matters is just because you made the claim that this type of thing can replace gender inside of our conceptual models, where it necessarily can't, given that the concepts are those for which are mutually exclusive. Right? You're losing terribly. But look, I'm gonna explain. No, I didn't. The word redundant's not needed.
Using 10 words when one will suffice is a sign of a malnourished mind, my friend.
Wait, you're losing terribly, so you decide to do the weird meta commentary?
I'm losing. All you've essentially said.
Yeah, you're losing terribly because you
that
asked me to give an argument and I
agents-
gave you one and you didn't.
All you're saying is rational agents convene and agree with my model. You're saying people agree with you. That's your evidence.
Yeah, that's evidence that the
Why
concept
wouldn't you just
is
say
successful.
people agree with me?
That's evidence that the concept is successful. But
So
it's not
you
the
have
type
no
of agreement
rhetorical
where there's a
skill or
doxastic state.
substance. That's
To be
crazy.
clear, it's not the type of agreement because agreement is a doxastic
Listen,
state.
man,
We're
can you get
talking
to the
about
point? Like, I'm tired
embedding
of
it in
the
their
50
conceptual
word
models.
statements.
You're losing terribly, and I don't know why you're doing this, but look, I didn't say people agree with me. I said there's a convergence of agents adopting conceptual models. You can adopt a conceptual model and not have the type of doxastic state towards a proposition. So you talking about agreement doesn't even matter, and that's not even relevant. You mistracked on that point. But also, it seems to be the case that these type of things have this relevant distinction because this is evidence that the concepts are successful. If it's evidence that the concepts are successful, it's also evidence that the concepts have normative force, right? Such that when we embed it into our conceptual ethics model, we should adopt these type of concepts, right? So that's why they're necessarily distinct.
What consequences? Like, you're not saying anything of substance. You know that, right?
I'm not saying. Do you have an argument for that?
Yeah.
Can you even recapitulate what I said?
I mean, all you're really saying here is that you have concepts that people agree are rational.
Nope.
I mean,
I just explained why that's not what I'm saying, sir.
Dude, if you're gonna mumble rap,
I just explained why that's not what I'm saying, sir.
Dude, if you're gonna mumble rap, I'm not gonna be able to repeat it.
Yeah, I can slow it down for your slow ass.
No, it's not about slowing it down.
Have you
ever heard of a skill called
that there are rational agents updating their
No. Hold on. I understand that it's hard for you to think.
Given the evidence.
Have you ever heard of something called synthesizing?
In favor of the conceptual
I need you to
models,
synthesize the concepts down now.
Not existing.
Because you don't have an argument, and this flailing is
I'm giving you the argument, sir.
You don't have an argument because you didn't even challenge a premise in my argument. You agreed with
Yeah, I did. I challenged the premise that these type of things can necessarily replace gender in our conceptual models.
That wasn't a premise I made.
You said it is the case.
I never said necessarily. I said it was redundant.
I didn't say the word necessarily, by the way.
But you just did, though. And that's blunder number 2.
You said it is the case that it can replace. Come on, lock in. Obviously, you're losing terribly, and you try to do this thing where you're trying to appeal to optics when you're getting beat the fuck up on the substance. You're getting blown the fuck up.
Sure, I'm getting beaten up on a guy who says his
friends
friends
agree.
agree
It seems to be the case that there's a large convergence of rational agents up in enterprise over time, given the evidence, in favor of the conceptual models, where it is the case that trans women are not women, and also there's a large convergence of rational agents up in enterprise over time, given the evidence, in favor of the conceptual models where sex and gender are necessarily distinct. Right? And that's not. We don't even need to use the rational agents there. I don't know why you're making these slow noises. This is terrible. This is terrible. Why are you doing this?
Because you're not saying anything.
You don't think I'm saying anything? Can you even recapitulate what I just said?
Yeah, you said there's a bunch of rational agents who assume that not having the difference between gender and sex is...
Already mistracking.
It's not mistracking to not be able to repeat.
I can give you the amps. I can give you the amps because that's not what I said. I didn't say they assume anything.
What the fuck is that?
I said they adopt.
Give you the amps?
Giving you amps.
How many hours a week are you on this?
I'm giving you the answer. So look,
man,
when we talk about the Bayesian convergence,
all the agents you're citing right now that are rational,
the type of convergence we're talking about, because you're getting blown the fuck out. All the agents
that they're all confused.
You're getting blown the fuck out. So the type of convergence we're talking about is Bayesian convergence, where you have rational agents upping your prior probabilities given the evidence. Notice how you don't need to have a positive doxastic state towards a proposition to update your prior state.
Notice that. Please notice that. Nonsense.
Please notice
that. All the agents you're citing right now are confused.
This is your objection? Is Discord nonsense? You're getting beat up.
Oh, I know it's Discord nonsense, yes, because you're saying the word doxastic when you could just say belief.
That's your objection?
No, my objection to your argument.
You're complaining because I said the word doxastic?
No, my commentary to you as a person is that you
I don't want that. I want you to give me some relevant.
My objection to your
the meta commentary, the type of psychologizing you're doing isn't giving me an attack relation.
Are you this afraid right now?
Give me an attack relation on the argument. Go ahead.
I'll let you finish since you're insecure.
What's your relevant defeater? Do you have a defeater? Yes or no?
Yes, I do. All the agents you're citing are confused.
Do you have an argument for that?
Yes, my argument as it was in premise 7.
Wait, that just seems like question begging then, because the claim in your argument is that
it points out how you're an idiot.
What are you talking about?
You don't have a defeater.
You just begged the question.
And all you've done here
what's in question is a premise in your argument.
I have friends that disagree with this guy, therefore I'm right. What a fucking clown, man.
No, notice how there's no therefore. Notice how it's evidence that the concepts are successful. We're not saying that there's some type of necessarily inherent relation.
Yes. Is the broad field of clinical psychology.
I'm talking about sex and gender being distinct. Do you understand that there's a large convergence of psychologists who affirm that sex and gender are distinct as well?
And they're wrong too.
So, wait, but what you're bringing into question right now is whether or not the psychologists affirm it. You just said
because psychology is not a solved field. There's disagreement.
This is terrible. I'm talking about the convergence. Whether or not there's a disagreement doesn't affect the convergence.
Do you think all physicists agree on
whether or not there's a disagreement doesn't affect the convergence? Also, I deny that that question is aromatically sound. I'm not going to answer that question. That question's getting dismissed. That question's getting dismissed.
This is so boring.
Now, to be clear, we're not talking about the disagreement. We're talking about the convergence. It seems like there's a large convergence of psychologists who affirm that sex and gender are distinct here. And I can give you empirics on that.
They're all wrong.
You think saying that they're all wrong is even an attack relation?
Yeah, because there's nothing you can get. You can't get empirics on a problem that hasn't been solved or even proven to be.
Yeah, I can actually give you the empirics, sir. Here, I'll actually
you can give me empirics on whether identity exists or not. How?
No, I'm giving you empirics. Wait, you're so confused in the conversation. You don't even know what I'm giving you empirics.
No, I think
I'm giving you empirics that there's a large convergence of psychologists who affirm that sex and gender are distinct. You're getting blown out. This is terrible. Now, to be clear, when you don't give me an attack relation, obviously you're not giving me an attack relation, then everything you say is going to be dismissed. But if you read Fahmy and Dung in his abstract theory of argumentation, any type of understanding of the abstract theory of argumentation, the acceptability conditions are whether or not it is an attack relation.
Who thinks they know things that they clearly don't know anything about.
You don't understand that the acceptability
your arms are
abstract
spaghetti
theory of
noodles. Relax,
argumentation.
big guy.
You understand that the acceptability of the abstract
you're either
going to
agree. You're either going to listen to the substance.
Whether or not the proposition
you're going to listen to
or
the
question offers up an attack relation.
Do
you understand that you're getting beat up right now?
You like
blown out. This is terrible.
So do you want to be treated like Lucario?
I'm giving you empirics for, which is just that.
Do you want to be treated like Lucario?
There's a large convergence of psychologists
do you want to be treated like
Lucario? That sex and gender
are
going to be necessarily distinct.
All right,
you're terrible. I'm better than Lucario. I would beat him. No way you just said.
That's why I'm going to treat you like him because you're a dog just like.
This is terrible. You're not even engaging with the substance.
I am engaging with the substance. You tried to derail my argument because you could see where it was going and you were scared.
Wait, I could see where it's going? I don't even know.
Yeah, because I was on P7, right?
You think I would?
It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious that once you establish a theory of mind, that the trans conclusion follows.
Can you motivate premises?
And this guy thinks he's clever by citing his friends?
Can you motivate premises,
What the fuck is this guy doing?
Can you motivate premises, sir? I don't hold the premises, sir.
The premises you affirmed. You just disagree with those.
I wasn't affirming premises. I don't hold that the subject-predicate relation is intrinsic to the terms.
Verbatim,
we're talking about premises the way an Aristotelian.
I affirm
obviously there's going to be a subject-predicate relation that's intrinsic to the terms. Right? For example, we could say a ball is red, and the term
speaking
red is going to be intrinsic to the terms. So obviously, you saying that you affirm premises, you're going to be affirming the intrinsic subject-predicate relation. So I need you to give me the argument for that. What's the argument?
I'll continue the argument where we left off. If you just
and you're giving me an argument for premises, sir.
Yeah, the last where we left off, I think it was premise 7.
Wait. What's in question right now is if they're premises. What's in question right now is if they're premises. So you need to give me an argument for premises.
Yeah, that's why
give me an argument for premises.
Formalized argument.
Wait. You think saying it's a formalized argument? You don't understand that there are formalized arguments where there are no premises? You can have arothetic type of arguments.
Every philosophy paper.
All of the premises. You can have arothetic arguments where there are no premises. There's just.
Do you know why?
So you saying it's a formal argument doesn't even respond.
Do you know why it's a formal argument? Because you can run derivations.
No, I'm saying you saying it's a formal argument doesn't give me some type of motivation to.
I'm sorry, academically rigorous.
Because you can have arguments where there's just questions, sir.
Okay, do you know why we formalize arguments in philosophy?
And questions necessarily aren't premises.
Do you know why we
there's no subject-predicate relation? So what I want you to do is give me an argument for premises.
Do you know why we formalize arguments in philosophy?
The question's dismissed.
Do you argue?
Question's dismissed the virtue of the arothetic inference.
It's because
give me the argument for premises
on it.
Give me the argument for premises.
This guy doesn't know philosophy, so he doesn't know that.
Give me
What
the
are you
argument for
saying?
premises. But also, what's going to be your type
me
of
the
response to the
argument
type
for
of
premises?
non-classical?
What the
What's going to
fuck
be
is
your
going
response
on
to the
here?
type of non-classical responses to the material conditional, sir?
Pardon me?
Yeah, what's your response to the non-classical objections to the material conditional?
What? Like, if there's a dialetheist concern?
No, not dialetheism. It's gonna. What we're gonna be questioning here is the true functionality of the
Are
material
you talking about
conditional.
modal logic?
All we're saying. No, we're not talking about modal
Okay,
logic.
so can
we're
you tell
talking
me
about
which premise you
propositional
disagree
logic
with in my argument?
insofar as the logical connective, sir. And all that's being said here is just that we're rejecting the true functionality of the material conditional.
Before we continue
because you
on the
want to say
logic
that the
quizzing,
truth of the antecedent necessarily guarantees the truth of the consequent.
that's
where we
modus
can go
tollens
against this. We can say that there's.
modus tollens pollenus. I know.
That's not.
Before we continue,
Wait, you think that's modus tollens?
modus MTP.
This is terrible, bro.
Do you know what MTP is, or do you only know MT?
This is terrible, sir.
Do you know what modus
No.
tollens pollenus is? Pollenus is? Do you?
No, but to be clear, you haven't given me
Here's
a
another
response
question
to the
that
type of
every
non-classical
first-year
objections.
logic student would know.
You haven't
In a
given me a response.
derivation,
You haven't
what is
given me
the
a
first
response.
operation you do
You
in a
haven't given me a
derivation?
response.
No, what's the first
Question's
operation you do
So
in a
give
derivation?
me an argument, sir. Give me an argument.
What's the first operation you do in a derivation?
Yeah, the question's dismissed in virtue of the
So
aerothetic.
you're just, that's concession then. Have a good day.
That's not a concession because I'm dismissing your question.
You just don't know what logic is.
The
That's what's
acceptability of the question relies on whether or not there's a
What
calculation.
is the first
I hold to the type of
operation?
non-classical
What
theories
is the
of
first
argumentation.
operation in any derivation?
Yeah, no one's answering that, sir. Now, are
It's
you going to
called
give me an argument?
You know what you do?
You're
show
doing this
the
to dodge giving me
conclusion.
a response to the
I'm
material
responding
conditional?
to your point.
You're doing this to dodge giving me a
Rhetorically.
response to
My
the true
goodness, dude.
functionality.
Because the
dodging.
whole point of doing derivations is to break the argument into premises so you can shortcut derivations on it to prove invalidity without having to read it.
You think this is answering whether or not there's true functionality in the material conditional?
I just don't think I would answer that question as somebody who clearly doesn't know what logic is.
Oh, so you're not going to answer the question?
No.
Wait, so you're dodging? Is that what's going on?
I just don't think that. I think the
I
question
don't
is
grant
irrelevant.
that the material conditional even obtains insofar as the true
The
functionality.
question is irrelevant.
No, it is relevant if we plug it into an aerothetic inference. Obviously, aerothetic.
Oh, you want to put it to an aerothetic? Why
has to deal with
do that?
the logic.
I'm
of
doing it
questions
in a simpler
and whether or
way.
not a question.
I'm
is
saying
harmful
here's
versus
P1,
you
here's
have to
P2,
answer. It's
here's
relevant.
P3,
I made an
here's P4,
observation,
here's
which is that your
P5,
argument
here's
uses the material
P6,
conditional.
here's
So
P7.
then the next question that
We got
follows
to
via the
P7,
observation,
and
if
now
plug
you
it
want to
into an
reformulate
aerothetic
it because
inference,
you're
would
scared.
just be that it
This
the
is
case
sad.
that you're
You are a
presupposing
weak
that the material
child.
conditional has true functionality, which is what's in question right now. You're getting this is terrible. You're losing.
No, man, I don't think me
This is bad.
refusing to, dude. If
You
I'm
haven't given me
formalizing
an
our
argument for the true functionality.
Okay,
You
why
haven't
didn't you bring up the
adequately
structure
responded
of
to
my
argument
premises?
that
Hold
sex
on.
and gender are necessarily
I remember if I recall
You haven't
something.
responded to the conceptual model talk, nor have you responded to my evidential.
But you haven't even
argument,
adequately
or the
addressed my
conceptual
argument.
ethics
You
of
just
trans
yelled
women.
at me.
You haven't responded. You haven't
You
responded.
haven't
at all.
responded to my argument.
I did respond, sir.
You said your friends disagree.
No, that's not what I said.
Yeah, it is
Now,
what
what
it
I
is.
said, to
It
be
is.
clear, what I said was just, and also I can just deny that that's the observation that you made.
I'm just going to
We can
deny
take some
that.
type of
I'm just going to deny your denial.
positionality. Yeah, I deny that you can do that, sir.
I'm going to deny that you can do that.
You say candor, that's going to presuppose. the modal
Anyways, so
auxiliary, in which case we can go
P8,
against
if you're going to go with the argument.
Wait. Do you have an argument for the modal auxiliary?
No, man, I don't.
I mean, no
Because
one
it's
can.
irrelevant to the question at hand,
No.
which is, are trans women?
Yeah, so the reason why it's relevant is just because we can take some meta-apparatic anti-positionality stance, where obviously you have an assertion here, and there's a transient
Can you tell me how that
perturbation in the
changes
type
the
of
conclusion?
indeterminate field. And the reason why it
Can you tell
changes
me how
the
that changes
conclusion
the
is because this
conclusion?
is neither going to support nor deny the type of propositional content you're
Can you
affirming,
tell me how that affects the argument?
and it's going to deny the theory of identity you're operating under, sir. So yeah,
I'm going to tell
I don't hold to premises.
because I finished saying what the argument is.
I don't hold to
Right.
premises, sir. I don't hold to premises, right?
You
Because
hold
we're going to
premise-
have this type of
premise what?
propositional intrinsic relations. I don't hold to premises at all. Every premise I don't hold
Then
to.
why did you agree with 7 of them?
I agreed with the analyticity. I didn't agree that they're a
No,
premise.
you agree with 7 of them. Here we go. Yeah.
No, I agree. I didn't agree with the
you,
premise.
You
I
agree with
the
7 of them. Now
analyticity.
you don't agree. That's formal
No, I
contradiction.
agreed
I'm
with the
just gonna take that as
analyticity. There's a
informal confession.
distinction.
If your whole point
Because
is
they're
that the
intrinsic to
structure
the
was
terms,
incorrect,
right? Because you
you're
can
gonna have a
hold
hard
to
time arguing that
relations
when
being
you
that for
agree
which
with
are external, to hold to some type of
Anyway.
Aristotelian deductive formalization or even an abductive formalization. You're going to deny these type of intrinsic relations.
My wife is going to get me to pick her up from the hospital in 5 minutes. So you're either going to hear the rest of the argument or I'm just going to go.
5 minutes of you straight dodging. Yeah, it's fine.
Straight dodging
So
what?
I'm gonna give you some type of response to your argument now, and you're gonna obviously engage. If it's the
I don't
case that
think
you
actually
don't
I
engage.
will because I don't think you've responded to my argument at all. Do you have
I
a
have
substantive? you have a substantive disagreement with it?
Can
or
you
is it just
motivate
all
that the
nonsense?
constituents of your conceptual scheme are relevant towards the
Do you
substance of the
think that?
dialectic?
Do you think the vernacular?
Can you motivate
like,
that the constituents of your conceptual scheme are relevant, sir? Because you're making
Yes,
claims
they
about the
are.
dialectic.
Yes,
You're
they
making
are.
claims about the dialectic that need to be motivated insofar as the constituents of your conceptual scheme. You make these type of
Nothing's
observations.
the vernacular.
So what I want you to
intimidates me.
do is give an argument for the constituents of your conceptual scheme being able to account for the dialectic, sir. What's premise one?
It doesn't need to.
Premise one is it doesn't need to. It necessarily does, right? Obviously,
Okay.
because you're saying
A theory
you're
doesn't
making
need
observations.
a theory doesn't need to stand on anything but its own reason. P1. P2. If this theory doesn't stand on P2 is this theory doesn't stand on its doesn't stand on anything.
Yeah, you're
except its own
stuttering.
reason.
This is bad. You're already stuttering trying to give me an
That's
argument.
fantastic. Yeah. I
But
guess I
the
have to
question
speak
now I'm
about
going to ask you is, what were you giving an argument for? Do you remember?
How about this?
But also, premises were what was in question earlier.
Noodle arms.
So you
How about I
say
ask you a
P1,
question?
P2, and P3.
No, I'm not
for
answering any more
functioning
questions.
back
This
to question.
bad faith
This is
liar
terrible.
of a debater.
You think
who's
I'm
wasting
bad
my
faith when you're
time.
getting blown out?
And
This
I'm
is
actually
terrible. You're losing.
You
You're
haven't
an embarrassment.
responded to anything with nothing.
You're an embarrassment.
Spat
You're an
lingo at
embarrassment.
me and embarrassed yourself and revealed you're 19
You're an
years old and you live in
embarrassment,
your
sir.
mom's basement.
You're an embarrassment, sir.
The fact that you're this uneducated yet
You're an
claim to be
embarrassment,
smart
sir.
reveals
You're
to
an
me just how
embarrassment, sir.
insecure you actually are.
So to be
Like you're
clear,
just
I'm
a
not going to engage
sad,
with the ad
pathetic
homs.
child.
You haven't given
who
me an
thinks they're
argument
winning
in
points
favor of
by
premises
knowing
being
what
the type of
you
thing which
think are
obtains.
hard
You
words.
haven't given me an
What a
argument. You
fucking
haven't objected to the
sad
arithmetic
little
validity.
man.
You haven't objected
very
to
weak.
the abstract dunk theoretic argumentation framework. You didn't object to the meta-apparatic stance that I took in the dialectic.
Yeah, I don't.
You haven't given me an
respond
argument in
to things
favor of
that
your
are relevant
conceptual
to my
schemes being
argument.
relevant towards the substance of the dialectic. When you
I mean,
obviously
I
made the
don't
claim
respond
that
to
I
things
did
that are relevant
X,
to my
Y,
argument.
Z in the dialectic.
Sorry.
It is relevant, right? The relevance conditions
Can you explain why?
dictated by the aerostatic validity, and the aerostatic validity.
Okay.
Here,
Yeah, this guy's
obviously,
just
the
going to
question's
go on
gonna be
another
one for which is
fucking.
aerostatic-
This guy's going to go another
aerostatically
autism
valid.
rant. All right, here we go.
Are you familiar with aerostatic validity? Hold on, let me
Are
pull
you,
the
are you
PDF.
familiar with aerostatic buddy? I'm talking about premises arranged in a structure. To
You said
lead
the
to a
question wasn't
conclusion.
relevant, and I just explained
You're
why it was.
deeply,
Wow.
deeply, and
Let me pull this up
profoundly
on the screen.
disturbed
Let
by
me
the
know if you
internet.
guys can see this.
Stop
Actually.
going on Discord to
Do you
learn
guys see this?
philosophy.
Do you guys see this? So we're gonna go
Stop
here.
going
Right,
on
obviously, if
Discord
we look
to
at what
learn
this says, it says
philosophy.
inferential aerostatic logic is a
How is it
logic
relevant to my
that
argument?
analyzes inferences in which questions perform the role, and it provides an alternative to the receipt. So look, we can go to the aerostatic inferences here. Hold on, let me show you this, sir.
I don't think
This
I
is an
want to,
aerostatic
because
inference
it's
of the
irrelevant
first
to my
kind.
argument. This guy's just trying to.
This is an aerostatic inference for the first kind, sir. But
Okay,
what
I'm gonna
I'm
tab out.
specifically
I'm
in
gonna go
question
take a
here
shit.
is the aerostatic inferences of the second kind, right? Where you make some observation, right? And then you ask the question. It's going to be warranted, right? The question follows insofar as there's relevance conditions, sir. And all that's being said here is that when I do an aerostatic inference of the second kind on the type of claims you made in the dialectic, where I make the type of observation, the claims you make, the question is going to be relevant, sir. Right? So you're losing terribly. And I just gave you free amps, sir. I don't know if you screenshotted that for later. Maybe you like saved it.
No, man. I went and I looked at my phone, my messages. Are you done?
No, you're gonna need it. I know you like
He's not.
for later, right? So yes, sir. Are you done? Are you gonna conclude? Do you want to conclude? Because you lost. Do you want to lose? Because if we conclude right now, you lose, sir.